Hi, I'm Cameron, and my presentation is on targeted advertising. So what is targeted advertising? Well, essentially it's data companies using the data you leave behind when visiting websites, and then using those information bits to sell you products at a later date. And you've probably seen examples of this on your Facebook feed, for example, like when you talk about something like a movie and you see a trailer for it. Or another example is you're talking about a very specific product the other day and then you see an example of it the very next day. This is targeted advertising in a nutshell. It's essentially using your personal information to sell you products. So how's it used? Well, companies spend a lot less money using targeted advertising than they would traditional methods such as, advertising on TV or advertising physically with like leaflets, pamphlets, and newspapers, etc. They've spent a lot less money using these methods, and it's proven more effective for the company because they spend a lot less money. And it's basically the data that you leave behind is then sold to third parties to make money off your personal information. So what are the negatives? Well, targeted advertising could be viewed as a privacy breach because it's essentially using your personal data as a means to make money from companies. And also, third parties could use it for nefarious purposes, such as phishing information out of you, scamming you, or just selling your information to less than moral parties. So there's lots of ethical issues with targeted advertising because it's basically a privacy breach. Many people view it as that. And there is no real way to block that advertising, unfortunately, because you're constantly going to leave data behind when using the internet, and that's just going to happen, unfortunately. Also, because the ads vary from person to person, vulnerable people can fall for that advertising, and they could essentially just view things as a confirmation bias and continue to read fake stories that aren't true at all, and they just fall victim and victim over and over to these false stories. We should be wary because these ads could target insecurities about yourself, such as issues you have with yourself, like your weight, your personal beliefs. If you're like trying to quit smoking, you could see advertising about like cigarettes. You could see advertising regarding political beliefs, stances, anything that you may be having an issue with. It's not uncommon at all to see issues like that in your feed. So what can be done about it? At this time, Congress currently has no law preventing the collection of personal data for advertising. And unfortunately, they probably will not because companies make so much money off of targeted advertising and will continue to do so, and their profits have actually increased due to not spending as much on advertising due to the digital age. However, European countries are working on laws that allow for individuals to claim their intellectual property, such as their social media feed, the data they leave behind as their own personal property, for means of like the companies that they can't use that data and that it belongs to the individual. A good example of this is the image provided by Jason Chung in the Ownership of Content in Your Digital Life article. The future. So regarding targeted advertising, the future is kind of bleak due to how much power companies have and how much just power that the tech companies have. It's kind of unforeseen just how much data they hold on everybody. And the really best way you can do is protect yourself is just by being wary of what you post, by using two-factor authentication to make sure you're the only one who has access to that information. You need to just use firewalls. You need to be very protective of your personal information, what you put on the internet. Maybe consistently just like double check what you post. You just need to be very, very protective of your personal information in this day and age, because it can very much affect you in a negative way if you're not careful. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.